We begin today the Gemara on Daf Kuf Amud Beis, the Mishnah on the bottom of the Yamud. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Hamaycher makim lachaverei, a person sells a place to his friend, lasas lekever, and it's going to be used to make a kever. So the Rashbam explains what it means lasas lekever. In those times, the burial was done in caves, and it was done for families. Each cave was for a certain family, and we'll see soon exactly the details of the size of the cave, but the basic outline of this is there's a chutzner, a courtyard, where the levaya is done and where the dead, where the mittah, the body is brought, and then there's a cave, and inside the cave, on the three walls of the cave, when you enter, there are what's called kuchen. These are slots where they put the mace, the body, and they buried it in a slot in the wall. Okay, so now over here, when you buy a place for a kever is not just one kever, but it refers to the Maira, this cave with all these burial slots. So what does that include? How much space do you have to provide for him, and what exactly is in its lashon of kever? V'chein, similar, hamakabel mechaverei, a person that takes upon himself for his friend, lasas lekever, that he paid him that he should go and prepare for him a kever, which again is this whole complex of these burial spots. What does he have to prepare for him? So first the Gemara talks about the size of the cave. The cave itself has to be 4 amas by 6 amas. And then in this cave, so you have space now on the walls of the cave, and these are 3 walls around the cave. You have, when you enter into the cave, you have 1 wall to your right, 1 wall to your left, and 1 wall that's across you. So you open up in these slots, places where you put in the mace when you bury him, shmeina kuchen. So you have slots, spaces for 8 bodies to be buried there, and that's shalish mikan. 3 that are buried on one side, shalish mikan, another 3 that are going to be buried on the other side, ushnayim mikanekdan, and then another 2 slots that will be when you enter into the cave, right across to you. And when you're in the opening of the cave, across at the back wall of the cave, you have space for another 2 people to be buried. Okay, so now this shear that it says over here works out if you have the cave in the size of 4 by 6. Okay, the Gemara, the Mishnah is soon going to give us more details about the size of each slot, and after that we'll see the cheshbon of why we come to this amount of 3 on each side and then 2 on the back wall. Okay, now let's see over here. So the kuchen. Now these slots itself, where the body is buried, what is the size of these slots? Orkon, the length is 4 amas, the length of 4 amas. And the reason why it's 4 amas long is because the Gemara tells us that a person's body is 3 amas long, and another extra amma for the ore, for the coffin. V'roimon, the height of each slot is sheva, is 7 tfachim. And that's because the height of the body of the person would be 6 tfachim, but there's an extra tefach kept there because you want it to be a space of a tefach. The halach is when you have tumah that's under the ground and there's no space of a tefach there, that's what's called tumah retzutza. Anyone that walks on top of that would be tamei min atayra. But in this case, because you leave an extra space of a tefach between the body and the wall, the ceiling that is of where he's being buried, so there won't be any tumah min atayra when you walk above there. But there will be still a tumah midrabana. We'll see soon in the Gemara that there still will be tumah when you walk above there. Okay, now v'rachban. What's the width of each one of these kuchen? Shisha. It's 6 tvachim, which is a amma. Okay, so now according to this, it comes out that in the kuchen here, inside this cave, which is 6 amas long and 4 amas wide, there'll be space for 3 kuchen on each side, which goes along the length of this cave, and there's going to be space for 2 kuchen on the back wall. And the reason is because between each one of the kuchen, there has to be a space of 1 amma. So you have 3 kuchen, which each one is an amma, so that's 3 amas. 2 spaces between the 3 kuchen is another 2 amas, that's already 5 amas. And then you have a half amma at the beginning, before you build the first slot, the first one of the kuchen, and then another half amma at the end after the last one of the kuchen. So another 2 half amas on each side. Together, that's 6 amas on each side, and therefore it's 3 kuchen on each side. And then on the back wall, which is 4 amas, you have 2 kuchen, each is an amma, and then in between another amma, that's 3 amas, and another 2 half amas on each side, that's the 4 amas for the back. This is the first opinion. This is the size of what the kuchen have to be. If you want to see the picture for this, so you look here in the Rashbam, on Kuf Aleph, the first picture of the Rashbam, so you see here the way this is built. You see the chutzner in the middle, and then you have the Maira, the cave that branches off from it and to the side, and you see the 3 kuchen on each side and the 2 going to the back. Rab Shimon says that no, the Maira, the cave, and the amount of kuchen that you have to provide when you sell for someone a space to make these Mairas, so there's this whole complex of burial spots, or if you're going to build this for someone, you have to make more. The interior of this cave has to be sheish amas al shmeina. It's a width of 6 amas by the length of 8 amas. Okay, so that gives you space for more slots, for more kuchen to bury people there. And therefore you have space to open up into it. 13 kuchen can be made over here in this space. And how do you have 13? Arba mikan, varba mikan. You have space for 4 on each side, and it's with the same cheshbon that I mentioned before. The width of each kuch is an amma, in between is an amma, and then in the beginning and the end of each side of each wall is a half amma. It comes out to be in the length 8 ammas. And shloisha mikanegdan. And the back wall, in the width, you have space for 3 kuchen. But then that's only 11. But then you have echad miyamina pesach ve'echad min asmail. Then there's another one which is going to be on the right side of the door and on the left side of the door, meaning at the right and the left of the entrance. That's the simple pshat of what it's saying here, that you can build another 2 kuchen at the right and left of the entrance. Now this is what the Gemara is going to focus on and explain exactly where these 2 additional kuchen are according to Rab Shimon. Okay, so this is the machlekes regarding the size of the cave itself, and therefore how many kuchen there are inside this cave. Now what's with the size of the courtyard? You have to make a courtyard. There has to be a courtyard there available at the opening of the cave, which is used when they bring the body there by the levaya. Ve'echad min asmoil, ve'echad min asmoil, ve'oise. Sorry, I just skipped a few words. Sorry, ve'echad mi. Okay, that's right. Ve'oise chatzer al pi amayre sheish al sheish. The size of the courtyard is 6 by 6 amis. Kimloya mita, enough of a size for the coffin that's brought, the kavira, and the people that are coming to bury. And then upeseach l'seicha shtei mairis, and you open up in this complex. So what you have to build when you take upon yourself this, you make 2 caves, el achas mikan v'achas mikan, one on one side and one on the other side. That's the opinion of the Tanakama, as you see it here in the picture. The 2 caves that are built on both sides. Now, the reason why it's done this way, only 2 caves on both sides, but you have it open from the other 2 sides, is because when you come for the levaya to bury someone, you want to have an open space to be able to walk in without having to walk onto over the bodies that are already buried there. It embarrasses those masons that you would walk over them. But Rab Shimon disagrees. Over here again, Rab Shimon says, no, arba la'arba ruchis. You're going to build 4 caves on all 4 sides, with all the amount of kuchen that Rab Shimon says. Rab Shimon actually says you build more kuchen, but you also are building on all 4 sides. Meaning, according to Rab Shimon, he says that the fact that when by a levaya, you have to walk over other graves or other people that are buried, in this case in kuchen, in order to go bury someone, because you're only walking over them temporarily in order to bury someone else, that's okay. If you're stepping on a grave, not to pass through, but to bury someone else, but you're just stepping on a grave, that you're not allowed. But in this case, because you're going to pass through in order to bury, so Rab Shimon says that doesn't matter. Okay. So as you see over here, the picture, in the second picture of the Rashbam, you see here the picture of the chutzner in the middle and the caves on all 4 sides. Now, if you take a look at this picture, there's an obvious question, which the Gemara is also going to address. How do you have these kuchen that cross over each other and you can't bury people in those spots? Okay, so the Gemara is going to address that. Now, Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says about all these shiurim that were mentioned here, that akoil lefi hasela, that the shiurim that we mentioned is not necessarily going to be the way the Tanakama said it or the way Rab Shimon said it. It depends on what the material of this ground here is like. If it's very hard, so then it would only be necessary to have, like we said before, in the beginning of the kochen and at the end of the kochen, just a half a tefach of space of actual ground to hold up the cave and the slots properly. That's if it's very hard rock, so it's going to be enough. What's if it's softer? Maybe you're going to need more space. So we can't say exactly how many kuchen can be built there. It will depend on how tough the ground here is. That's the one detail that Reb Shimon Gamliel argues, but Rashbam also says that from the Tosefta you see that there's also another detail that he argues about, also regarding the machlokes, whether you make 2 midas on 2 sides or you make on all 4 sides. He says that's also going to depend on what the material, what the ground is like. And over here, if it's actually softer, so then I think he says, one second, Rashbam over here says that if it's softer, then you can't make it. If it's softer, then I think you do make it on all 4 sides. But if it's hard, the ground is very hard, then you only make it on 2 sides. Just a second. Something like that. Okay, the Rashbam explains that the argument of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel is also regarding the amount of midas, whether it's only on 2 sides or on all 4 sides. Okay, so the Gemara here is going to start with first explaining a detail of Reb Shimon's opinion that said that you build 13 kuchen inside these midas, and he explained how you have 11 because you have 4 on each side and 3 in the back, which is together 11. But then he said there's another 2, one at the right of the entrance and one at the left of the entrance. What did he mean by that? Hani Trey, these extra 2 that he said, Lahechi Shadiluhu. Where does he extend? Where is he digging them? Where are they extending into? If you're going to say that the place where you would extend them to is, all the other 3 walls are already full with kuchen. So where do you have more space to build another 2 kuchen? That would be only at the wall of the entrance. You have the door at the center, and then on the 2 sides of the entrance, you can build kuchen there. What that would mean is that the kuchen extend into the place where the courtyard is. It's going to be, the person is going to be buried inside the ground under the courtyard. But if that's the case, hakamitachi luhu, so that means that people in the courtyard are going to be stepping in the courtyard on top of the place where these people are buried, and it's not the right thing to step in a place over where the people are buried. So over here, when you come to a levaya and you step over there, so you're not just passing through, like by the case of, according to Rab Shimon, that he says you make midas all around. Over there, you're just passing through. But over here, in the courtyard itself, is a place where people stand there more permanently. How could you say that you build the kuchen that go under the courtyard when people step there? V'sul, another question on this pshat is, Hatnan, we learned in the Mishnah that says, now the Rashbam says, even if you're going to say that stepping above that spot where people are buried is not an issue. But the Mishnah says, Chatzer HaKever, the Chatzer that there is, the Chatzer of these kvarim that are built inside the caves. So when you are inside the courtyard, the one that's standing inside the courtyard is tired. Standing there inside the courtyard, he's going to be tired. Now, if you're going to say that you build the slots, the kuchen of burial under the courtyard, why are you tired? It's going under the courtyard, and you're standing on top of the burial spots of people that are buried underneath the chatzah. I mentioned before, even if you make a space of a tefach, that it won't be a tumim and a teira, but there still is a tumim and the rabbanon. So how could the Mishnah say that when you're standing inside the chatzar, you would be tired?
This is in the cave?
This is
in the cave?
No, on top of in the chatzar.
No,
Chatzar. Look in the first picture here.
It's not in the cave.
No, yeah, on the chatzar. Yeah. Okay, so the Gemara here tries one shot. Omer Rabbi Yosef Rab Chanina. So Rabbi Yosef Rab Chanina says what you do is you can't dig these kuchen to go under the chatzar. Rather, what you do is the avid lahu kimin nagar. You can dig 2 kuchen going straight down, like a bolt, just like a bolt and a door that goes down. Same thing here. You're going to build 2 kuchen on the side of the entrance and 2 sides of the entrance going down, which basically means that you're going to be burying 2 bodies over there. You put them in standing.
Standing up.
Standing up. That's how you bury the two bodies beside the door here.
And
so it doesn't go under the chutzner. It's right by the entranceway, so it could be a tiny drop under the chutzner, but it's very close to the end of the chutzner. So for that, we're not chayshish, and that's where they're buried. Another two spots there. But the Gemara refutes this answer because V'ha'amar Rabbi Yochanan said that kvuras chamayrim izu, to bury a person standing is like burying the way you would bury a donkey. A donkey that you just throw him into a pit in the way he is standing. So it's not covered amaze to bury a person that way standing. It has to be laid down. So how could you make a burial spot this way? So the Gemara says that according to what Rabbi Yochanan said, so what are we going to answer for our Mishnah? Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the Ovid Luhu Bekeren Zavis, that you make these two extra kuchen that Rabbi Shimon spoke about in the corners. It's not, these two extra kuchen are not built beside the entrance, in that wall of the entrance. Because as the Gemara explained, if you're going to make a slot, a kuchen in there, it's going to go under the chutzner. Rather, what you do is a cross on the back wall. In the place where the side walls and the back walls meet, in the corner, the space for another two kuchen. You can see it right over here in picture Aleph in the Rashbam, where you have in the corner. So you have two that come out diagonally. Mm-hmm. So you have the four on the side, four on another side, three in the back wall, and then in the corner you have another two, the space for another two over there. And that's what he meant, another two in that, by the Keneged Pesach, it means in the wall on the other side of the Pesach in the corners. But the Gemara asks on this pshat, but if so, v'hanogi kuchen la'adodi, it's going to come out now that the opening of the three kuchen, the three slots here that are at the corner, are going to be touching one another. Because as I explained before, when it comes to the end of the walls, you only leave a half a amma of space between the last one of the kuchen at the end of the wall, and then also by the back wall, you also only leave a half a amma of space there. So if you're building another kuch there, which has to be wide an amma in that space, you're taking up the space of each half amma of the two walls. It comes out, as you see in the picture, that the opening of the three kuchen are sort of connected. How could you have three of them that are opening together? Each mace has to have its own, it's covered for each mace to be buried separately. You're not allowed to bury mason together. So over here, how could you say that these kuchen open together? Ravashi, so Ravashi answers that what you do is, b'maimik, you build it deeper down. You don't build it on the same level as the other kuchen and then they're going to be connected. There is space to go out, but for the entrance, there's no space because there's only an amma in between. So you build it lower down. And then you have space to build it out. Now the Gemara explains that Bechlal, this idea that over here the kuchen are built in this way, that you have to be maimik, that you're not building all kuchen on the same level. You must say pshat this way in the Mishnah regardless, because if you're not going to say this idea that you build some kuchen higher and then some kuchen deeper down. So now we come to the question that I alluded to before when we were learning the Mishnah. Arba Maidas le Rab Shimon. The four caves, according to Rab Shimon, that you build all around this chutzner. How could you build these caves on all four sides of this chutzner? Hakanogi kuchen lahadadi. It comes out that the kuchen overlap one another. You can't bury two people if it's overlapping in the same burial spot. As you see it clearly in the picture on Amar Aleph, in the picture of the Rashbam, as you see that they're overlapping, or if you look over here in the Rashbam and Ois Beis, where they have a partial picture of this, where you have two kuchen that are overlapping each other, when you have the two midas of the two sides of the chutzner, and the slots, the kuchen, are going out and they overlap. So what's the answer? Elo b'maimik. You must say that it's done in such a way that the kuchen of one maida is higher up and the kuchen of another maida is deeper down, so they don't overlap each other. So hachanami b'maimik. Over here as well, when you're building these two kuchen according to Rab Shimon in the corners, you're building them lower down, deeper down. So it's not going to be opening together with the other two kuchen that are near the corner. Rav Huna Berei de Rav Yeshua Ama. However, Rav Huna Berei de Rav Yeshua says that this raya that we just brought, because of the question, according to Rab Shimon, how could you have four caves all around one chutzner that the kuchen should not overlap? That's not a shaila. And the reason is, there's another solution for this. Arba Maidas, Rab Shimon, the four caves that Rab Shimon says you build in one chutzner, you can make it in a way that it does not overlap. How? The avidlu kicharusa. You build them diagonally, and the mashal of the Gemara is kicharusa, like the branches of a palm tree, which don't grow straight, but they grow diagonally. So to here, you dig them, the slots diagonally. If you look here in the picture Gimel, so you see here, you have a chotzer, and then it gives you a partial picture of two midas of two of the sides. So instead of digging, as you see, each one of the kuchen straight, and then what would happen is they would overlap each other. So you see here, they're built extending out away from each other, so either diagonally away from each other, and therefore they do not overlap each other. So this is even without being maimik. You can't bring a rai from this part of the Mishnah that you have to be maimik, because even without being maimik, over here you see that it can be done if it's done in this way diagonally. The Gemara says in this answer of Rav Huna Bered Rav Yeshua, Vaha the Rav Huna Bered Rav Yeshua. This that Rav Huna Bered Rav Yeshua says about this, berusihi. It's outside, meaning it doesn't work. If you calculate it, there won't be enough space for this. And the Gemara says, why not? Mechti, let's see. How much space do you have over here? So first, the rule is, kol amsa beribua. Anytime you have an amma, a square of an amma, that means that if you want to measure the diagonal line from one end to the other, diagonally inside the space, inside the square, what do you have? Amsa v'trei chumshi balachseina. That means that you have an amma and 2/5 and a diagonal line across of it. Okay, so over here, what are we speaking about? You have the two midas that are on the two sides of the chotzer. Okay, now each mida is according to Rab Shimon. What's the length of each mida? 8 amas. 8 amas, and then another 8 amas for the other one. Now, so if you want to draw a square beside these two midas. So if you want to draw a square of 8 by 8 amas, what's going to be the length of the diagonal line in a square of 8 by 8 amas? Kama havalehu. What's going to be the space that you have in a diagonal line for these 8 amas? Chad, sari, v'chumsha. You're only going to have 11 and a fifth. 11 amas and a fifth. That's what it comes out. If each amma is an amma and 2/5, so then for 8 amas, in the square of 8 amas, you're going to have 11 amas and a fifth. That's the space that you have for the kuchim that you want to dig here, if you want to do it the way Rav Huna Bered Rav Yeshua says, diagonally, not overlapping each other. So you only have space of 11 and a fifth amas to dig these kuchim separately without overlapping. But the problem is, it doesn't work, because kuchim kama havo tmanya. How many kuchim do you want to dig here? 8. If that's the case, tmanya b'chatzor v'chumshe heichem mishkachaslo. How can you have space to dig 8 kuchin in a space of 11 and a fifth amas? And the reason why it doesn't work is very simple, because how wide is each one of the kuchin? An amma. So you have over here 8 kuchin, so that's already 8 amas. And then you have an amma of space in between each one of the kuchen. That's another 7 amas, because there's 7 spaces between these 8 kuchen. There's 7 spaces. So you have 8 amas of width for the kuchen themselves, and then you have 7 spaces between them. So that's a total of 15 amas. So if you want to build 8 kuchen with the spaces between them without overlapping, how much space do you need? 15 amas. But the cheshbon, although is in this square, in this area, you don't have 15 amas. All you have is a space of 11 amas and a fifth. So therefore, it just doesn't work out. There's not enough space here. So therefore, the Gemara concludes, Ela Rav Huna Bered Rav Yeshua berusihi. So therefore, the pshat that Rav Huna Bered Rav Yeshua said should be taken out. It's incorrect. So that brings us back to the original answer that the Gemara said before, that we must say that according to Rab Shimon, the way this is built is not on the same level. There's those that are built higher, those that are built deeper down, and therefore they're not going to be overlapping. Now, the Gemara suggests another pshat, or we could say, like what Rav Shesha Bered Ravidi said regarding the next Mishnah, the next Zaf, benifli, that our kuchen, that could also be built to be very small, very short kuchen, that are built for nifli, which is a miscarriage or a stillborn, a kuchen that are only large enough for a small baby to be buried there. So hachanami benifli. Over here, those kuchen of the two midas that are near each other, and that in those kuchen that are built in the portion of the wall of these two caves that are close enough that they would be overlapping, over there you're going to have to build very small kuchen that it should be only for a baby, and then the kuchen that are further out on the wall, there you'll be able to build them regular length size kuchen, which is, as we said before, 4 amas. So that's another possibility how to explain Reb Shimon's opinion of it. Again, what? A nafel, yeah.
You have to bury them?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Messiah Mimitev, Aksiv Vechsim Meteva, good gebenched